Hey there, Coach. It's been Chris Thomasson here, joined by Woodsboro coach Jonathan Lesak. Coach, thanks for joining us.
Thanks for having me, man.
All right, so scrimmages in the books. We've got real life action this week. Tell me just how the guys look so far. What have been your thoughts in camp and now through two scrimmages?
Uh, Overall, I think I'm really happy with the improvement from the first day of camp to the last scrimmage. We had some questions we needed to get answered, and I think pretty well we've got all the questions we had to have answered. We got them checked off the list, and we were able to do some things that we really knew we needed to get done. And the kids did a good job of just responding and getting after it, so we could coach them up and the things that they needed to do to get better. They did so.
Yeah, what were some of those question marks that you had that you liked that you saw in the scrimmages?
Well, one was we are replacing a 3-year starter at quarterback, and we had a little bit of a couple of guys that could have taken that spot, and both kids are very viable options for us, and just we figured out what we can do with each and where they can go and how they can help us, and we got them in place. Had to replace some offensive linemen up front that were big for us, and we got our guys figured out who's that going to be, and same thing on defense. Had to fill some holes from last year, the guys that we graduated, and see where we were at with that. And we've had kids step up spots to earn the start on Friday, and we'll see how it goes.
Yeah, I know. Last year didn't go exactly the way you guys wanted to at 3-7, but you got in the playoffs in that smaller district. So, what were some things that you tried to take away from last year, and how much are the guys wanting to build off that?
I would say the guys wanting to build off that is there. The coaching staff wanting to build off that is there. There's one thing that's never been absent here is the willingness of our coaches and kids to go get after and get better, and that's something that I think is great. I think our kids had a good off season. They had a good summer, and they've hit the ground running to go get what we want to get, and they're bought in, and they're committed to what we're trying to do. So
Yeah, absolutely. I looked at the schedule. It looked like there's some, opportunities to get some wins there, especially early on, before district. How important is it from a confidence standpoint, maybe get a couple of those under your belt, in the first few weeks?
right, especially having a change in roster quite a bit from last year and some kids that we had counted on for several years. Uh, it's always good for players and teams to be rewarded for what they put in, and our guys have done a lot. And from a confidence standpoint, once you get rolling and get some of those things under your belt, the sky's the limit. You never know what's going to happen after that. Just getting to the fact where you believe you can win and you will win. And I think our guys are bought into that, and I think they've been working on that. So um, building on that every week is going to be important for us.
What are your thoughts, later in the season now with a little bit bigger district?
I think all it did was add more numbers to what was a competitive district for us. Instead of 4 or 5, there's 6, and I think everybody's a viable playoff team. And you know, respect the guys that are in our district, the coaches and kids. They get after it. It's always been good games between us, and being able to stay consistent and stay healthy is going to be the deciding factor at the end. Who makes the least mistakes and who can keep everybody out. So.